The Look Alive podcast is sponsored by Sonic.
Welcome into the Look Alive podcast. It's been a busy week, and we're talking all about the NBA. So who else would we have than our resident Hawks expert, Matt Pearl?
You didn't know. You didn't know I was the resident Hawks expert, but yes.
A longtime season ticket holder in the past. You've seen a lot of Hawks in your day.
I moved to Atlanta in 2009 in early April. It was right when the Hawks and Cavs were in the playoffs. I went to a Hawks playoff game against Cleveland. I was a long-time, huge NBA fan. Never lived in an NBA city as an adult where I could actually afford tickets.
Okay.
Went to a game. Hawks lost because they're playing LeBron, but I was hooked. I got in, season tickets the following year, and I want to say I've had them off and on for about 6 seasons. Now I have kids, so I can't do it anymore, but yeah, big Hawks guy for a long time.
But so basically you were just waiting to live in a city to attach yourself to a team, right?
Kind of. Well, so I grew up in New Jersey, which meant rooting for the Nets, which I did loyally, but you know, those were some hard times.
Right.
Yeah. And now they're in Brooklyn anyway, so I'm still a Nets fan, but it didn't take long to become passionate about the Hawks, because especially in that time, in the late 2000s, early 2010s, they were a fun team to watch. Joe Johnson, Josh Smith, when Josh Smith was like doing all the right things, Horford. I mean, it was a lot of fun.
Now they're a really fun team because, of course, they've got one of the best players in the NBA, Trae Young. You don't have his jersey yet, but I feel like you're trying to buy
We were talking about this off camera.
Yeah.
I think if I had to buy a jersey, it would be like a divided jersey. It would be half Trae, half Vince.
It would have to be.
Right?
Yeah.
It's the only way to go.
If you're going to go split jersey, you have to do them too.
Absolutely.
So what do you like about the Hawks right now? They struggle, and they had the period of time where John Collins couldn't play because of the suspension.
Yes.
But they're still a really fun team, and they're also rebuilding.
Yeah, and it's funny. My wife and I went to the second game this season, the home opener, when they played the Magic.
Which was so fun.
So much fun. And the Hawks had already won their first game.
Yep.
Then they come out, put on a show. Trae's being Trae. Everybody's doing their thing. The vibe in State Farm is always so much fun, win or lose. So I think at that time, I was getting really swept up in Hawks mania and overlooked a lot of the concerns that I had had maybe a week earlier.
I think
about
a lot
the
of
fact
people
that,
did.
like they didn't have a backup point guard.
Right.
The fact that they'd traded away a lot of veterans who had really been nice glue guys for the team last year.
Trae Young had no help.
No help. And then John Collins, like I said, 25 games. Suddenly you lose your second best player. So I think now things are starting to stabilize again, right? Because in addition to Collins coming back, in addition to the rookies, Hunter and Reddish, starting to steady their ships a little bit, but now also getting some of the veterans that I think will help not just fill out the roster, like having Jeff Teague as a backup point guard in addition to Goodwin now is great. Having somebody who can just be there and take minutes, but also people who can be the Bazemores, the Dwayne Dedmans. In fact, this case, it's actually Dwayne Dedman being Dwayne Dedman again. So yeah, I think things are at least, the ship has steadied. And they're not going to be a playoff team, obviously, this year, and probably won't come close. But I think we'll start to see now some of the growth that I think a lot of us were hoping for at the start of the year.
I think, too, what the NBA trade deadline said to me was that they're serious about keeping Trae Young around. What I mean by that is they're finally getting players to make him want to stay in Atlanta because he's a superstar athlete. He can go anywhere he wants. Surround him with good people. He'll stick around.
Weren't you so glad that they got Clint Capella instead of Andre Drummond?
It was the best thing they could have done, and they got him in a steal. So I think that the Hawks, they won. Potentially, they were the top of the NBA at the NBA trade deadline. They got some guys for cheap. Like I said, they brought guys in to kind of support Trae. It's been nice to see that they're serious about that.
Yeah, and so now there's finally that structure there that I think was missing at the start of the year. But this team has been fun to watch
for sure
all year. And I think I know plenty has already been said about Trae Young, and there's no surprise about how great he's been. But I mean, again, as someone who had tickets for a long time and saw a lot of very good, talented players on that Hawks floor, I mean, when you have someone who is that electric every night, that is a rare gem. And I feel like Atlantans who might go to the occasional game here, like they need to get out and go to a Hawks game because he'll make it worth it by himself, let alone a lot of the fun players on the team. But Trae Young, it's just a beautiful thing to watch every night.
I'm glad you said something about that because you've obviously been in Atlanta longer than I have. And I feel like a lot of Atlanta people in general, they're not big NBA fans. The Hawks, it's hard to build a fan base around the Hawks when they're not doing so well. But Trae Young, do you think he's convincing enough for people to kind of jump on the bandwagon go be Hawks fans?
That's a really good question. You know, when I first started going to games and teams like LeBron's Heat or Kobe's Lakers or even the Bulls and Knicks, when they would come to town, it would be a 50-50 split in the stands. And I think what has happened in the last 5 years is that has started to shift, especially when the Hawks had that great 60-win season. I mean, that was really, I think, the one that got so many more people in the city invested. But also, their social media team is great. They've just done a lot to, I think, make themselves more palatable as a franchise. So yeah, I think this is definitely a city and a metro area that will respond if there's a player of Trae Young's caliber. And go see some games and go enjoy a team that I think, again, we're watching a team that is low now, but hopefully rising, and that's a fun thing in itself.
Yeah, and I think that having Vince here, if you're an NBA fan, you should be appreciative of the fact that his farewell tour is here in Atlanta.
They treat Vince Carter like he's been on the Hawks for 20 years.
It's true.
This is his second season.
It's true.
But I went to that opening game, and there was a whole Vince montage. They have him in the opening sequence doing the "it's over" thing. Like, they treat Vince Carter like he is a Hawks legend. And I'm here for it. I love it. I think he's so much fun. He's got the podcast now, and repping Atlanta through that and everything. I think he has been one of the great jewels of the past couple of seasons getting to watch. Again, he's not a legend in his prime, but still a guy who you want to see before he's gone.
It's fun to also watch the juxtaposition of all of the younger guys that play with Vince. Vince is definitely the old guy in that locker room, and it's so much fun to watch.
Do you remember Trae at that game? He was like, I got to give it up to, I think he said like the big homie, or like he said something where like you could tell Trae, for how good he is, for all he's going to do in his career, was like, a fan looking up to Vince Carter.
Which is so nice. And they obviously respect him, and he can teach all the guys a thing or two. Not to continue on Trae, but it's hard not to talk about Trae because I feel like it's Trae and everybody else right now. He's in the All-Star game. He's going to be shooting in the three-point contest. How much fun is that going to be to watch?
It's going to be great. Here, I had a question I was going to ask you as someone who's kind of new to the city. Because I watched this team for a long time, and the Hawks used to get bashed. Because they were just the same old Hawks, right? Like they would make the playoffs every year, but they'd be out in the first, second round, and that would be that. They had that one great season, but that was it. And now they're doing this rebuild, and I was trying to think about, what did I enjoy more as a fan? The Hawks that were in the playoffs every year, and every year, as a season ticket holder, as a fan, you knew in April and May, you're going to be watching the Hawks in some playoff basketball, and that was a great thing. Now, there's no chance of that, but the Hawks had to bottom out to get a player like Trey Young, who is, again, all-star starter. Again, I don't know if we have made enough of a big deal in Atlanta about just how big that is.
I agree.
To have an Atlanta Hawk as an all-star game starter.
And one of the best ones on the roster, by the way.
Exactly, yeah. So I don't know. I'm curious, as someone who roots for many teams, what your take on that is. Would you rather root for the steady team that never quite makes it, or root for that young team that's not doing well in the standings, might get there someday, but you're waiting for the seeds to grow?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that it's exciting to jump on the Hawks right now because there is so much promise. And you obviously want to be a fan of a team that wins. I think everybody does. And especially in the NBA, it's easy to jump on those bandwagon teams. The Heat kind of started that whenever they built all those championships and they saw those superstar teams. But I'm also a really big fan of old school NBA. So I like consistency, and I like for teams to be just, if they're not making the playoffs every year, I still want to know that there are some superstars on the team. It doesn't have to be a playoff season every year. So I'm on board with where the Hawks are right now. I love where this team is going. We don't know where they're going right now, but I think, like I said, the NBA trade deadline was so exciting. Finally, we've got some guys. Clint Capella is one of the most exciting things to happen in this city right now. And out of Steele, too.
And it's easy to look at this roster and wonder, we've been sold on their growth, right? On their potential for growth. And I think it's easy to look at the roster outside of Trae Young and wonder, okay, is John Collins the second best player on a championship team? Are Hunter and Reddish, are they going to be entrenched starters? Where do, they're fun to watch them grow, but where are they going to end up? Herter, he's got a lot of confidence right now, but where is he going to be? But the trade for Capella, I think it reminds people that there's still a lot more to do as far as what you can obtain as the Hawks. They're still getting draft picks. They don't have as many assets as they did 2 weeks ago, but it's that thing that you almost look at the Brooklyn model now. I think a lot of teams are going to start to look at that as you build a nice young core that's just missing one or two stars, and you attract the stars to come to you because you've got this solid core around you.
And you can tell, just in Trae's young career so far, everyone around the league has so much respect for him. After every game, first person they go up to is maybe Vince because it's his last season, and then Trae. And they're saying who knows what into his ear, how much respect they have for him. So that's exciting to see too, because I feel like a lot of veterans are going to start to say, I want to play with that guy.
Were you surprised when you learned of the Trae and Kobe connection and Kobe's daughter?
No, I wasn't, only because I had seen it on social media a little bit. I think what was more surprising to me was that Gigi, Kobe's daughter, her favorite person in the NBA was Trey Young, and I think that was really cool to see that, and that Trae, as young in his career as he is, was so humbled by that, and just he really gravitated towards that, and I know that all of that was very difficult for Trae.
It was very surprising when I heard that because you just think of the kind of player Kobe Bryant was, and merciless out there, and a guy who locked in on big moments, and we haven't really seen Trae in those kinds of moments yet. He's never had to compete in something that really counted in the NBA.
Right.
And I think hearing that kind of cosign, even if it was it's his daughter's favorite player, and the fact that Gigi loved him, and the fact that Kobe respected him, that was, I think, a really interesting thing to hear about Trae Young, because I'm a huge fan of his game, and there's no doubt about what he can do with the ball. I want to see a little more out of his defense, but not the first guy to have that concern about.
True.
But yeah, I want to see him play in some games that matter. I want to see what happens when he has to elevate his game beyond every other night in the middle of the winter,
Yeah, and I see what you're saying, but also too with the younger fans, he's flashy. He plays very attractively. That's something that younger people can identify with. They want to model their game after somebody like him. He's putting up 38 points, 20 plus points consistently, game in and game out. That's fun for a lot of younger people to watch. They don't really care of anything other than that. He's shooting from half court.
Right.
Frequently. They love that.
I've now started doing that at the gym.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Successful?
No, not at all. But I've started doing it, is what I'm saying. I'm trying to model my game after Trae Young's. Yeah.
How far does it go past the basket, or how short does it get?
Right. So currently,
I feel like it's short.
Here are some things, short list of things that Trae Young and I have in common. We can both hold a basketball.
Okay.
We can both dribble and shoot it. I'm going to stop there, but that's pretty much where we are.
Yeah, but you didn't tell me where the shot goes. Did you try for real?
Where's the shot land?
Yeah.
I've hit rim. I actually made one for real one time.
Half court?
And then I just retired from the game of basketball. I was like Bill Murray in Space Jam. I was like, in that, now I've got to go.
I'm done.
Yeah. I'll never have anything.
No, you're like that GIF, where he shoots it up and walks away and it just goes that's you.
But doesn't he miss that shot?
Completely.
Oh, yeah.
That's my point.
That is me, yeah.
One thing that I do want to say is that Atlanta they're no stranger to the Hail Mary three-point buzzer beater shot. I only say that because R.J. Hunter. Everybody knows who he is because of that shot against Baylor in March Madness, and he's back in Atlanta. He's with the G League for the Hawks. That's fun to have him back here.
It's fun having the G League team.
The Skyhawks.
Too. Yeah, it's another way that the Hawks have very craftily kind of helped cultivate their fans here, and now having RJ back that's a cool thing. And
Jaylen Goodwin, who used to be on the G League team, now he's with the Hawks. He's with the NBA. He did a great job of coming here and pumping up the Skyhawks. So, it's another avenue for somebody to get a good basketball game in, and you're seeing these players develop. RJ could potentially be a Hawk eventually, but he was one of those guys that everybody knows because of that three-point shot. It took them into the next round of the NCAA tournament, but he also has some beef with Georgia State where he played college basketball, and he told Alex Glaze about that earlier.
All right, so new team, new feel, kind of how are you adjusting?
Just taking my time. I've been in a situation before, kind of switching teams mid-season, and it doesn't happen right away. So just seeing where I can get my spots, seeing the flow of the team, chemistry of the team, style of play, and just go from there.
How do you get that rhythm? Because this isn't your first time switching mid-season. Changing countries too. You were in Turkey before. I mean, kind of, what's that adjustment like?
You just gotta have patience. It happens faster for some than others. But it's hard. These guys have been doing this since August, and just got to figure it out.
Back home, though, how special is that for you? Do you like that? Because I know for some guys, maybe it's a little bit of a distraction. Maybe they don't want to be around, the stuff they grew up around. How do you feel about that?
I understand that part of it. but I like it. Like in this business, you don't really get a lot of comfortability. Kind of always on the road by yourself, moving, switching cities or teams every year. So to wake up in my bed, drive to the gym, leave the gym, drive back to my bed is I think is an advantage.
Mom and dad still have the house here?
Yeah, they do.
So are you staying there or you got your
Nah,
own?
I got my own
you got
spot.
your look, I was gonna say it's an empty house. I mean I'm assuming
that would have been convenient, yeah.
Their house I'm assuming is nicer than
For sure it is.
So why don't you stay there?
Nah, they kicked me out after high school, so I had to figure it out.
So you got your own spot. Yeah, but what is that like for you to have your own bed? Because life as a G League player, it's not as glamorous as people might think. So to have kind of your home base.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's just G League is a grind. So, in my opinion, playing in it for a few years, wherever you can get comfortable, you have to take advantage of those spots because on the road you got a roommate and not the best hotels, not the best food. So for me to know where I can pick my spots is huge for me.
Yeah, and for people that maybe don't know, what is that grind like aside from the hotels and the food? Because a couple of years ago I was talking to Dwayne Dedman about what those G League checks are like, and people might be surprised though even what that's like.
Yeah, I mean, it's just you're really doing this for you're working for an opportunity. There's not a lot of resources to really work with, and they're figuring it out as the years go on. But it's tough. Like you kind of, for me, when I had gotten to the G League, it was a shock that the things that I had to do for myself because when you're in the NBA, a lot of things are handed to you and given to you and resources.
What were those things? You're not like taping your own ankles or anything.
Nah, it's not that serious. That would be crazy though. But just as far as you finding your own food, you taking care of your own body, like you have to go get treatment. Nobody's coming to you for treatment. The extra work you have to put in with the little time that you do have. So it's just really working with limited time, limited resources, but long-term goals.
Oh, I want to go before we kind of get more into the G League stuff. You did go to Turkey. Kind of what went into that decision? Because you'd been in the G League for a couple of years. Was that kind of, I don't want to say giving up, but going overseas, you're like, all right, it's time to take it overseas?
Yeah, just trying something different. Like this is a very short window to play basketball for us. So to maximize every opportunity, to try different things, to do different things, live different places, I'm big on that. And I had a good opportunity over there, and it was a good experience. My girlfriend came over with me. And at the end of the day, we were living overseas, kind of figuring each other out. I'm figuring myself out, figuring out a new style of basketball. So it was put me in an uncomfortable position, and I really learned a lot.
What did you learn?
Just how to trust my instincts, how to trust myself. You're out there with nobody really.
Don't speak the language.
Don't speak the language. You don't really know the culture. You don't know how people feel about Americans over there. So you're really forced to hone in on yourself, trust yourself, and kind of let things come to you.
How tough was that for you to make that decision? Because I know some guys that have no problem. I know guys that are still playing in Germany, been over there for years and love it, not coming back even when they're done playing basketball, and love the overseas life. I know other guys who are reluctant to take it overseas because of the stuff that you're saying is making you uncomfortable. So how did you where did you sit with that decision, and kind of what made you take that leap?
I believe in my ability, so it's kind of tough to say I'm gonna put that on hold for a year and just go do this, but I just felt it was time. Like I've done everything I could possibly do in the G League. I've improved every year, and I just thought that was the next step to me, was to go play a higher level of basketball and to prove myself on that stage.
The overseas life, the way I understand it, you get your check, but then they provide a car for you, they house you, give you the food. So is it a better situation overseas than this?
As far as resources?
Yeah.
Of course, yeah. Of course.
What league were you playing in Turkey?
They have their Turkish League, and then we're Champions League for the European Cup.
So what kind of guys are playing in that league?
So it would go Euro League, Euro Cup, and then Champions League. And all those leagues are really tough. Turkish League is one of the better leagues in the world. But I was surprised at how many elite players are actually overseas. And that put everything into perspective. You're in a very select group when you're in the NBA. And there's so many good players, thousands and thousands of good players. So it forces you to come with it every single night.
Who's that player that you first saw? You were like, oh, they're playing wherever they're playing overseas.
Like a good player I was impressed with.
Are these guys that used to be league, or these guys that you're like tonight, Frank Mason? I'm like, oh, Frank Mason's here.
Mike James overseas, he's ridiculous. Like, he's doing CP3, James Harden, super elite things overseas, and that's very hard to do over there because there's less space and less opportunity on the ball, less possessions. So, yeah, there's a lot of really good players.
Did you like being in Turkey?
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
New culture? Have you been to Turkey before?
No, I haven't. Great food, great people. They accepted me. They thought I was Turkish some days when my hair was wild, but yeah, no, I really enjoyed my time there.
Well, did you have like a family that kind of took you in, or did you have teammates that kind of took you in?
I was by myself. My girlfriend came and held it down because.
So you guys were just exploring a new country.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, new opportunities. All right. Goal still to get to the NBA.
Of course.
How close do you feel like you are to that goal?
You never know. You just never know. Opportunities come and strike at weird moments, and for me, I've had my moment and I've taken care of those.
How often do people bring up the shot to Georgia State?
Often, very often.
You get tired of it?
Absolutely not. No, like that's a good moment, and like I'm not like looking for everybody.
Do you feel like I've done so much more I've done more since then? Like
right. I mean, there's that, but then like you got to sit back and look at the good things that happen. Like I'm not gonna take a good thing that happened and kind of put it away because that's all people think about. Like that was a huge blessing for my family, and that was an amazing moment. So I'm always okay with that.
My idea coming into this, I was going to try to recreate this shot here, but I actually haven't touched the basketball in 4 years. I gave up on. Listen, I used to just do it just to try to get some run.
Right.
But I had an experience. It's for a podcast. I'll get into it. You tell me, give me some encouraging words, man. Because I was back in Toledo. I was playing pickup ball at LA Fitness. Again, I'm just trying to get some cardio, get a nice lather in. And light-skinned dude. I look like a light-skinned Brandon Jennings, lighter-skinned Brandon Jennings. And I'm the kind of person, I can't play. I'm a 3-and-D kind of guy, but I still talk. I like to talk a lot. And when I talk, I know how to kind of get under your skin real easy. I was talking, but he was cooking. Like, it was bad. To the point where I stopped talking. I stopped talking, but he kept on jawing at me. I thought he was like gonna try to like really go at me. So to the point where I retired. I'm done pick up basketball. My brother plays, my cousins play, everybody plays. I don't touch a ball. So give me some encouraging words, man. Do I need to be back out there? I'm still trying to I don't know.
Hey man, look. Now more than ever is Mamba mentality. Like whatever you feel like you need to be doing to get back out there or not get back out there, you go ham on that mentality, and whatever happens with that happens. I wouldn't give up though. You gotta give it one more shot, especially.
It's been almost 4 years.
He was running at you. You gotta
look.
have to try it again.
I almost changed gyms, man, because it was like I'm even trying to get a lift in, and he would walk in and just almost even look like I know. He's like he knows that.
You might have to go get that one back.
So I got to go back to Toledo for the sole purpose of.
Yeah. One more time, one solid time.
Okay, I like that. So how much longer do you have doing this? You're what, 26?
26, yeah, as long as my body can. I've seen dudes do this till they're 40. I've seen people stop at my age and younger. So when I'm done having fun and I feel like my body's had enough, I'm done with it.
So you think this is going to be more of a physical thing for you? Mentally, you don't see that finish line?
Yeah, I don't see me, because I just love it so much. Like, it's all I've known. Like, I'm 26, I started when I was 5. It's 2 decades of basketball. Like, I've got this far just off the joy of it, so I'm gonna continue that. If I feel like I need to stop, take a break, then I'll definitely give myself that time.
Is it weird coming back home now? Dad's not here. You can still go up to Georgia State if you want, but new coach on the sidelines, new feel.
Yeah.
Is that weird for you?
It's not weird. Like I know the city. Like I know how this goes. I know how the games go. I know how the G League goes. I know.
You think Georgia State basketball? You think Ron Hunter?
Yeah, you do, and. Yeah, I'm still waiting on my invite from them to come to a new game. So,
what do you mean?
No, I haven't got an invite. I'm still waiting on my invite.
Is that how that works? They usually reach out to former players and they're like, hey, why don't you
That's how I thought it worked. So, I'm still waiting on
other guys that have gotten invited back?
Of course.
Why do you think they haven't invited you back?
I'm not really sure. I haven't had really much communication with that school since I left for whatever reason, but I would love to come support. I love the new coach. I love the new team. So
does that sit with you the wrong way that you haven't gotten? Does that sit with you?
Of course, like when you put a lot of time and energy into a situation, it would bother you. But again, time heals all, and we'll see what happens.
Okay, so look, I guess you you're waiting for the invite.
I'm waiting, man.
You're waiting for the invite.
I'm in Atlanta waiting to come to a game.
Now, what if they send you the invite and they put you up and put you in the rafters?
Put me anywhere.
Put you anywhere. You just want to be invited.
I just want to know
you don't need
that
to be
I'm
courtside. You don't need splinters
exactly.
in the feet. You don't need free food. Just
exactly.
get you in there.
One invite. That's all I need.
It doesn't matter what game.
No, it don't matter.
Wednesday night.
It could be a practice. It could be a shoot around. Just need an invite.
All right, so it's been probably about 6 years since he's been with Georgia State. No invite back. What do you think about that? Disrespectful or?
I'm not going to step on the shoes of Panther Nation, but certainly you would like to see some kind of coming together of the two sides.
But at least he's come out and said, hey, I'd love to do that. So then, maybe Georgia State, you hear it and you think, okay, let's bring him back.
And it is, there is no other moment that you associate with that team.
No doubt.
And he is just so intertwined with that team, that school, that, you hope it works out.
What a fun team, too. Hope he comes back. Okay, so I want to pick your brain a little bit more about the Hawks, specifically what I've been dying to know.
Okay.
Since you're a food expert, too. An expert of many things, not the half-court shot, Matt Pearl. You love food, specifically around the city of Atlanta.
Oh, yes.
What does State Farm Arena need? They have Antico, but they need to bring some kind of other food. What's it going to be?
That's a great question. And, here's the thing. They've really revamped that whole situation in there. I remember when I first started going to games and they had like the Buckhead Life restaurant.
Okay.
But it was just the awnings. You never felt like you were actually getting, like you felt like it was just the name and then the food was by, whoever, Sodexo, I don't know, like could be anyone. But I don't know. I think we're all kind of jealous of what the Braves did with the Battery.
Yeah.
Right? And
everybody is.
All the rest, they've got Antico, but they also have Superica up there.
Yeah.
Or not Superica, the El Felix.
That's right.
And a variety of other places.
Yard House,
yeah. There's just so much. So I don't know. I think a really good taqueria would do so well up there.
But it doesn't have to be a full-blown restaurant. You're very go big or go home.
I want to watch the game when I'm at the game.
You just want to pick up the tacos.
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I would say.
Okay, Hawks. A very good taqueria.
Yes.
Any other suggestions for the Hawks? Don't say LeBron James.
No. I think the Hawks, I've stopped trying to figure out what they're trying to do.
That's okay.
Because a lot of things have been head scratchy, especially this past offseason.
Sure.
And like I said, they've kind of come around on a lot of it. So I'm curious to see where this offseason goes because it does feel like a pretty pivotal one.
Yeah.
In that all those resources and draft picks and everything, that they're starting to dry up. They're starting to make some moves, and it feels like they've got 1 or 2 more years before they have to start signing guys to extensions and filling up that cap sheet. So I'm just going to be watching this offseason very closely and see what kind of moves they make. But parallel universe, though, I remember a few months, like not right around this time, but draft lottery time last year, when the Hawks had 2 picks, and everybody was saying, oh boy, wouldn't it be great if the Hawks got Zion? And I'm not saying the Hawks should get Zion because that's not going to happen, but I think about that a lot when I look at this team.
It was in the realm of possibility back then, though.
Totally.
It was completely in the conversation, so that's not, that was a good point.
And now that we've seen him play, it is like an alternate universe, like could you imagine if that happened? But I like what they did in the draft, and we'll see what happens with this year's rookies. But again, I think I'm just curious to see whether or not Travis Schlenk and the Hawks brass feels like some of these pieces around Trae Young are the pieces that will be here in 3 to 4 years and that can be part of a championship team.
This has been really insightful, I think, because you're speaking as a fan as well as someone that has loved the Hawks for so long. I've got a final question for you.
Yeah.
A lot of the reason why you don't have season tickets is because you have a family now.
Yeah.
That takes up a lot of time.
It does.
Let's say you don't have a family, no kids. You want to be a season ticket holder again. What do the Hawks need to do to get you back in those seats?
Oh, well, I'm worried if I answer this question, I'm going to get about 10 phone calls after we leave. Oh, that's a tough question. Well, I don't know that they have to sell me, though. Like, I love going to Hawks games.
So you're just that diehard?
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I think, the prices have gone up since I had my season tickets. It used to be. I remember getting
You don't want to see them win game?
Well, a lot of that was for the arena.
Yeah.
So a lot of the reason the prices went up for a while was for the arena, which I understand.
But forget the prices. What do they need to do?
I hate to sound, the in-game experience is so great at State Farm.
There you go.
Love everything they do. I remember going to a game in Houston, the year that the game was in the Super Bowl, and the Hawks had a game in Houston that week. So a bunch of us were down there covering the game. The Falcons were in the Super Bowl, and the Hawks were playing the Rockets. So we did some interviews with the Hawks about being down here the same week, all that stuff. And we stayed for the game. And I remember being in that arena and thinking, they've got this figured out. I mean, they had a giant jumbotron.
Okay.
They had the 4 factors. They're like educating the fans on advanced metrics while you're at the game. And now State Farm Arena is doing all of that.
Yeah.
They've got the big screen. They've got the 4 factors. They've got all this extra stuff. And the commercial break stuff has always been tremendous. I always used to tell people, even if they didn't like the Hawks, that going to a Hawks game is one of the most enjoyable ways you can spend a weekend night in Atlanta, and I still believe that.
There's also always some kind of celebrity at a Hawks game too.
Yeah, and there have been some times where I wished the celebrities got a little more love at the Hawks games.
Okay.
Like when Usher's there, or when Julio Jones would go. I mean, the crowd would go nuts. But there were some like Atlanta R&B artists that would get kind of tepid responses, and be like, "Oh, that's a shame."
So you need them to hype it up more.
I'm a big Atlanta guy in general. Like as you know, I eat in pretty much every restaurant that this city houses, and I love the Hawks, and I love just embracing this city. So I'm always in favor of Atlantans embracing Atlanta and the good things about Atlanta, and so that's my take on that.
Well, hopefully this inspires people to go to Hawks games. What do you think?
I hope so. If we've learned nothing from this podcast, I hope everyone has taken a cautionary tale about what it's like to cheer for this team and experience the highs and the lows, but want to keep coming back because it is a great experience.
I've learned that you're bad at the half-court shot.
Sure.
And that the Hawks need tacos.
You probably didn't need to learn that about the half-court shot. I'm guessing you assumed that already.
I did.
Yeah.
It's okay. That's why I knew what GIF you were.
Yeah.
All right, Matt, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. We are back every single Thursday. The Look Alive podcast, you can download them wherever you get them, and we will be back next week with more.
The Look Alive podcast is sponsored by Sonic.